Hi, I'm Ian, and I finished Russian Doll.
And I'm Elyse, and I also finished Russian Doll.
This is your final warning, because spoiler mode is activated right now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Elise, how you doing?
You know, I'm good. My back's always bothering me, but whose isn't?
Mine
right?
is.
Well, yeah, because your back hurts from carrying all the technical difficulties of this company on it. That's why you're always in that room tinkering. I never know what you're doing in there.
But anyway, we watched Russian Doll.
We did, yeah.
I loved it.
I loved it too, and it's one of those things where like I've come and done spoiler modes with Huber.
Yeah.
And so I'll always play Life is Strange through the lens of, okay, we're going to do a spoiler mode about this. I have to remember.
Think about it like Huber.
But I was watching this just because you had reached out to me after. So out of pure enjoyment, I was just watching the show willy-nilly. So I hope I do it justice. I wish I had watched it with the lens of, speaking to it later.
Remember all the details. Yeah.
Because it is a show very much about the details.
Very much so. I think I went back and watched like one or two little moments, but I'm sure that there are just dozens of things that I missed the first time through.
Yeah.
Things that come to mind are like the fly. Toward the end, the fly goes through the hole in his thing and then flies out through her bathroom, which I thought was really cool.
So good.
Obviously, at the very end, the two of her walking by, it was very cool. But yeah, I think that it's interesting because from the trailer, I saw the trailer before the show was released, and I was like, okay, it's a Groundhog's Day, Happy Death Day, which I never saw, but like
it's been done.
It's been done, right? And then you see Amy Poehler on there, her name,
what?
And you're like, okay, gives it some prestige.
Yeah.
And I was unfamiliar with Natasha Lyonne prior to this because I've never seen Orange is the New Black.
American Pie?
Yeah, Sophia was telling me she's on American Pie, Smoking Cigarettes, which I have seen, but I don't remember that. Don't have a big memory for that one. But, yeah, and I just think, like, she's incredible.
Oh, I loved her in this, like, absolutely.
She's what is the description that she says of herself? She's half the girl from Brave and half Andrew Dice Clay.
And it is like 100% accurate description because, I mean, her hair is such a pivotal part of the show for a few reasons. I guess if people are watching this, they probably they know what the show's about. We should assume
either they have seen it or don't care about us destroying it.
Yeah. Well, if you don't know what it is, it's a Groundhog Day style show about a girl named Nadia. Girl, I'm gonna say woman. She's not a girl. I hate that when it's like she's over 18. She's a woman.
Yeah. She's 36.
Yeah, she is.
Over and over.
It's her birthday party that the show takes place on. The night of her party that her friends are throwing in their apartment. And she keeps dying.
Yeah.
And she's not really sure why she's caught in this loop.
And wakes up every time she dies, she wakes up looking into or not looking into the mirror of the bathroom at her party, and then it just starts from there at the same time.
The same song comes on every time.
Which I guess is by a man named Nielsen.
Bless him.
Someone tweeted it at me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know who that was.
Trying to do a little bit of reading before this, and there were a few songs that like got thrown in the mix, and I think a Lil' Kim song was one of the ones. They were like, hey, maybe it's Lil' Kim. But then halfway through the season, like plot twist, she meets someone else that is in a loop, death loop.
In the elevator when she's all calm and she's like, "Hey, didn't you get the memo? We're all about to die." And he goes, "Oh, it happens to me all the time." It's
like the conversation we would have. I feel like. Yeah. But his name's Alan.
Yeah.
And Alan dies on the day that he was proposing to his girlfriend.
Yeah, and she breaks up with him before he gets the chance
because she was being unfaithful to him.
Yeah. With Mike.
Some of the men on the show, I'm like, who would be into these men?
Yeah. Well, that was something interesting that I wanted to talk about. Might as well jump in now. I read an article about, I'm sorry, I don't remember who wrote it or what website it was on, but an article that made an assertion or pointed out something that I hadn't thought about while watching it, but like all the roles in this that are traditionally played by women are played by men.
I read that same article.
Yeah, where it's like, what were the three? It was like the sexy friend, love interest kind of thing. It's like kind of Alan.
The accomplice, sort of.
Yeah, the supportive spouse is what's his name? Jeff? John?
The
ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, and then the like femme fatale kind of character, which is Mike. Though I would never give Mike the.
Well, that was the weird thing. Is like, yeah, I'm like, well, one of the things I liked about this show is, I mean, it's obviously like really feminist, like it's like totally, but without trying. It's just by nature of what it is.
Yeah,
it's very like positive in that way, and it's very sex positive, which I liked. Like there are characters in this who are represented who like, yeah, just want to have sex, and like they're all down, who cares, like they don't like each other. Like that's Mike's power. And I think like when he says that he's the hole where a choice should be, like that was such a like prescient self-awareness, you know, and like
sad, kind of
very sad. And I loved that moment. But like, yeah, and then Alan is like super uptight about it, which is also like the show doesn't say that's wrong. It's just like, yeah, you can, you know.
Well, I loved like to that point, I loved that she hooks up with Alan, you know, I think 3/4 of the way through the series. They just kind of bang.
But it's like not the point.
It's not the point. And I like that it's a shift from, you know, kind of how we used to look at will they, won't they romances on shows, where it was like, well, these characters have amazing personal chemistry. We're waiting for them to hook up, waiting for them to kiss, get together. But I think now it's like, oh, these people had sex, but we're waiting to see if they actually can get over their own hurdles to find a true, real connection with another human being. Yeah. Like the physical thing is not the focus. Like it's,
like halfway through, I was kind of dreading that's where this was heading. I was like,
me too.
I was so like, episode 4, episode 5, like I was like, oh no, man, is this like is the whole reason for the season gonna be like they need to find love with each other, and that's why this is that? Because that would have, a lesser show would have done that, right? Yep. And it would have sucked.
Yeah.
And this, like at the end of it, I don't even think they're romantically entangled. I just think they're friends. Right? Like at the very end?
I would say probably. It's hard to tell.
I guess it leaves it open.
Yeah. I think they're just trying to help each other on their own journeys to fulfill what they need to fulfill to get out of those loops. Yeah. It's kind of where I sort of feel like, and if something happened between them, it'd be tangential to that. Right. But I don't know that that's the purpose.
Yeah.
It's to what you were saying about it feels like a show that is like putting women forward without that being the messaging. I like that a lot too.
I love it,
because it does feel like, well, we're telling the story of like a interesting woman in the show. We're not trying to make any statement about the female protagonist or like women. It's just enjoying her journey, and not all of the crew. I'm sure there's like a bunch, you know, crews are huge. I'm sure there's other men, but like a lot of the principal players on this show are women. Yeah. So
above the line, I think was mostly female.
Like directors, head writers. It was funny because I think her name's Allison Silverman, was like one of the writers on the show, maybe the head writer. And she had worked on like The Office, Colbert Show, because I was looking at her credits. And then when I was driving over here, I was listening to Conan's podcast, and he was talking to Stephen Colbert about how he met him through Allison Silverman.
Oh, fun.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's been like doing all this stuff for years, and we just never heard about her.
And I love that about this. Like, to me, this is where, like, just like speaking of it in a sort of societal placement, you know, before we continue talking about the narrative and stuff. Yeah, I think like this is a hugely successful show because of everything you just said. Like, this is what it looks like once. This is what shows look like once society is like, once equality has been achieved, right? Yeah. Like it just is. And it's just good.
I'm not really all for like we need to make a show and everyone has to be women working on it. It's just get different perspectives.
Yeah,
you know,
it was refreshing to see people like accurately represented. Like there's a joke toward the end where what's her name, Lizzie, I think. She just says like, sorry I had such a reaction to that, I'm on my period, and like nobody cares, and then she just like leaves. It's just like, all right, I don't know, it's funny. But anyway, back into the stuff that won't make people shit post.
Oh, come on,
guys. People watching this are fine.
Yeah. Okay, well, come on, you guys, let the women have a little bit.
Let them have a show.
Let them have a shot.
But anyway, yeah. So Natasha or Nadia is waking up in her loop in the first episode, and at first she's like, after she dies once, I liked that she started catching on like basically immediately.
Yeah. The premise, it wasn't about her going, what's happening?
Like,
like
well,
that wasn't
like,
the focus.
In Groundhog's Day and in like the 9 episodes of Next Generation where this happens, like the whole first half, the whole like the you know, it's long into the second act before they even realize they're in a loop, right?
Yeah.
And this one is almost immediate. In a weird way, I wonder if she had been looping and we just skipped that to the point of her realization, because at the very beginning of the show, she goes outside when she goes to hook up with Mike in the first, what she calls her first loop, and she sees Horace, the homeless man, across the street and says, I think I know that guy. That's at the very beginning loop.
Oh, you gotta watch this show twice.
You gotta watch it twice. Because I'm thinking, like, and then I was like, okay, so maybe she's been looping for a while and just didn't know. But, like, much importance is placed later on the first loop, which I don't even think is necessarily correct or important on their part. It's just one of their theories. But, like, I was wondering, how long had they been looping before this stuff even kicked off?
Think of that. You mad genius, you.
It was just something I thought about. But, yeah. So, yeah, she's in her loop. She realizes it, and the first thing she thinks is that it's her friend gave her bad drugs.
Yeah. She's like, oh, come on. I love how it took me a little bit to get used to her cadence and her accent.
She's like a cab driver.
She is. But then I came to love it. She's like, oh, fuck, they gave me some drugs. I got to go figure this out. Now, like, because her response, even, you know, I feel like most people would break down in a ball sobbing if they thought, but she's just like, oh, God, I'm in a loop. God damn it. You know?
What else today? You know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, she's so funny. Well, like, that's what I love about her character is that she is really gruff and like super detached, you know, which of course ultimately becomes the point of the show. But like those moments where she like breaks down or cries or like has a touching moment with someone, it's just so well done, and her acting is like the vulnerability underneath her bluster, I think, is so cool.
They're earned too, when they happen.
Sure. And like after Alan and Nadia hook up, and then she's gone huffing paint with Horace or whatever. She just like randomly leaves stuff all the time, and it's like, what?
Yeah, she's constantly leaving her own birthday party,
right.
Which I mean, I understand. She's like, okay, well, I'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, but
like then she comes back and Alan has rearranged her stuff, and she like flips out on him, right? She's just like, get the fuck out, dude, like leave. Which is something I think is really cool about her character and this show is like other shows after the characters have hooked up, right? They would be like a unit together. And like she immediately kicks him out of her house for overstepping her boundaries, you know? Which is rad.
She's very assertive. She's very in the moment. I love when you have a character who, without saying as much, you have little moments that kind of give you that window into their personality. She's a game developer, and there's that scene in a meeting where someone tells her that there's an error in her code. And so she pulls up her laptop and she starts fixing it immediately. And they're like, oh, you can do it later. And she's like, no, I'll do it now. Like, that's kind of, to me, who she is.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, he left a bug before me or whatever. And like fixes it too.
When I started watching the first episode and those guys in the convenience store say something to her and she kind of gives them it back, I thought, oh, God, this is cheesy writing. And then later I was like, oh, no, like, she absolutely would not just... Some stranger says something to her and she just lets it lie. Like she would say something, you know, back to them like that.
Well, I like that moment actually, because then the store owner is like, where'd you send him? She's just like an abandoned dog food factory or wherever the hell. I thought that was
It's
funny.
Great. So have you watched it? You know, you said earlier you have not only seen it
I've
once.
only seen it once.
But you watched some parts again.
Yeah, I went back and watched a couple of little choice moments. Sophia pointed out something actually that because Nadia at one point says that Alan's got a bug in his code and they need to find it, and like the thing he starts up seeing every day is a fly, which is a little bug.
Well, her friend calls her a cockroach.
Yeah.
She's like, you're a cockroach.
Yeah, and then she goes, cockroach.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like, why are you saying that?
Maybe she's the bug in her code.
Yo. Well, that's what we, yeah.
They both are,
They
I
both
guess.
are. They're the bugs in their own code. And like, I guess, I mean, we're jumping all over the place. Whatever, screw it. But
we're the bugs in our code.
We're the bugs in our own code. But yeah, and like, yeah, I really liked where it went, where like, sort of like Groundhog's Day is about him trying to be a better person, I guess. It's like God or the universe trying to teach him to be good. Yeah. This is I think a more interesting and impactful spin on that, where it's like, we're not trying to get you to be a good person. We're just trying to get you to like encounter your own baggage.
Yeah.
And grow.
Deal with your demons.
Right. Oh man, the episode where the young her keeps showing up, like it was scary to me. Like the little kid, I was like, ooh. But yeah, and then she starts theorizing, like, maybe one of the first times she talks about it is when she's in the episode where they hook up, when Alan finds out that she hooked up with Mike in her first loop, and she's like, don't freak out, you know. And he's like, you hooked up with Mike, you know, and he's freaking out. And then she's just like, yo, the sex wasn't that good. Yeah. It wasn't like start off a quantum multi-dimensional like clusterfuck good sex, you know. I thought that was pretty funny. But like I wanted, like, then the theory does become that maybe, well, over time she starts theorizing that maybe every one of these deaths is a universe where they have died and everyone in that universe has to go on without them, right? And then Alan theorizes that maybe they're both always dying at the same time, which turns out to be true. And then, so then that sort of becomes the working theory, right? Is that she says, okay, if we're dealing with like multiple dimensions, like we have to figure out what the deal is. And the way it ends, where they think they're back and they think everything's fine, but then Alan doesn't know her and she doesn't know Alan, and they're both in their first loop. Yeah.
And now it becomes like she seems somewhat stable in her dimension. He seems somewhat stable in his, but the versions of them and each other's respective are completely like fucked. Like he's still, you know, falling over drunk in the convenience store.
And about to kill himself.
She's wondering if she should, I guess. But like, so now does it become they've helped themselves? Do they have to help each other?
Yeah.
I was reading that when they pitched the show, they had originally pitched it as a 3-season show.
Oh, really?
So I'm
kind of glad that didn't happen.
Well, it might, like, I guess if it gets renewed.
Oh, you mean going on? I thought you meant this season would have taken 3 seasons. No. I was like, that would have been bad.
I think, yeah. I think, oh no, absolutely. I think, so I'm curious, like, what the arc of, like, the second season would be. Is it, like, you know, now they do this and then they come back together in a single universe in the third one? I don't know.
I actually was going to ask you about that because, I wondered if it would be multi-season, what season 2 and 3 would be. I mean, the one thing seems like Horse knows more than he lets on, it seems like.
Yeah, that pesky Horse.
Also, it gets, like, just so weird with him, but, like, yeah.
I'm curious if he's supposed to be this sort of, like, you know, in Shakespeare, it'd sort of be the, like, impish character that kind of, like...
Yeah.
Eggs on everyone. But I'm also curious if maybe he himself is, because we see him looping. Die in the facility, the homeless facility, and I've been curious if maybe like he got caught in the loop, could never get out of it, and like maybe lost his mind or something. I don't think that's. I think there's probably a much grander explanation.
To death the one time with him, and I imagine he would freeze to death too. Yeah,
I don't know.
That's cool. Well, and then, weird things start happening toward the end of the series where, like, symbolically things will start disappearing, like mirrors, because her mother broke all the mirrors, and, like, his fish and all these things that they depend on and have emotional...
Forgot about the mirrors.
Yeah. They all have emotional baggage tied to it, so, like, things start disappearing. So, like,
people
clearly...
start disappearing.
Right, and then people start disappearing. And clearly it's, like... Either they're in some kind of like non-reality where this kind of stuff is happening, or they're skipping into other realities where mirrors were never invented, or like you never had a fish even though he had a fish tank, which is weird. Or like, you just never had any friends, like Nadia's party, you know.
Yeah.
But like, where that trips me up is her friend, whose name I don't remember right now. The one who gives her, the one who says "Sweet birthday, baby" every day.
Oh, I don't remember
her name, but who gives her the ketamine laced weed marijuana cigarette. As you say,
the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce,
as some of us may say.
But at the end, when there's no one in the house and Nadia's just like, we're in an unfurnished apartment and nobody's here. There's no party. You have to come with me. I don't want you to disappear too. And then like she somewhat creepily says, I can't. And then just keeps dancing like a freakazoid. And I'm just like, okay, is everybody like in on it? Like, what's going on?
Maybe as like she's high, and so she was just kind of like,
yeah,
she's.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I mean, that would be a much more interesting direction for the show if other people have their parts to play or have some kind of like Shakespearean hand in their story. To what you were saying about like things disappearing, or it's not really disappearing. It's just it's symbolic, I think, and it's part of their growth and acceptance. But like they both ultimately give Horse the things that were sort of representations of their inner turmoil. Like he gives him the ring.
I forgot he gives him the ring.
And she gives him the necklace because if you remember on the show, like she has the
gold.
It's like, what is it? It's not like a doubloon. It's like, I forget what the term is, but
collectible.
Yeah, her family, like after the Holocaust, they didn't want to put their money in banks, so they just like stashed it all in the equivalent of doubloons, I guess. And then her mother sold them all, and
she knows the exact amount. It was like $158,076.85 or whatever. She's
got this one left that like we see in the flashbacks her mother was wearing it. But yeah, she gives that to him and
says it's too heavy, which I like.
Too heavy.
Which is an interesting moment because it's like I think that is a part of her starting to move forward. And the cool thing with this is like they remember obviously their own stuff, so like she still gets that emotional beat of giving that thing to Horse, you know, even if he won't remember it, or like even if the next universe she skips into or whatever that never happened. But yeah, I think that's really cool. And then when he gives him, it's kind of funny though because when he gives Horse the ring, it's like a moment of giving up, sort of, right? Like he doesn't care about anything, so he's just giving it away.
Well, that's what I love.
Hadn't realized that though, that they both give their weighty item to Horse.
Such a smart show, and that's what I love about like the Groundhog format is that, like you said, like everyone else around becomes a learning tool, and it's the person that is reliving the day that becomes the force of growth. So like, you know, Bill Murray, he's trying to get Andie MacDowell to like fall in love with him. And each day he's learning something more about who he is and who she is and how to be a better person. And like in this, what I loved about Alan was with the first few Alan playbacks, it's just his girlfriend rejecting him, his proposal. Yeah. But then you get to the point where it's like Alan's progressed enough that she reveals her infidelity. And it's like, oh, like that's, because to me that's like growth. That's like, oh, he got to a point where she divulges something new. And yeah, I don't know. I just love that. Well, there's all these constants, and then one is
sort of along those lines. Like one of the strengths of this show, though, is I think one of the pits that Groundhog's Day falls into is, I think in a system like that where there's one character that's maintaining continuity and all the other characters are just tools for that character, it dehumanizes all the other characters in your show, right?
Props and
they're props, and like in Groundhog's Day, I think that definitely happens, right? Like he can punch out Ned Ryerson because it doesn't matter; it's not a real person. Like it's just a doll.
And Ned will be fine tomorrow,
right? And to some extent, I think even Andie MacDowell's character is like dehumanized by the movie, you know, in a weird way, because she becomes more of a project than a person. Whereas in this, I think that the other characters, we learn such interesting little nuggets about them, and like they're never treated like not precious. Like even Nadia, who seems so aloof, worries about them when they start disappearing, right? And like cares about Lizzie and her other friend, and like Ruth, the Ruth character, I love her like surrogate mother.
It's kind of
who's a therapist, and it doesn't get like. It's risky in a show like this where people are suffering mental turmoil as part of the plot that like the therapist character swoops in M. Night Shyamalan style and just kind of explains everything.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a few lines where I'm like, oh, that's a theme, you know? But like, I think they did it pretty well.
She's likable.
And
too.
she's likable. I just loved that character and the gas leak.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this kept all the other characters powerful to me, which I really liked.
I forget her like ex-lover's name that wants to get back together with
I feel like
her.
it starts with a J. I think it's Jeff.
Oh, I feel like I should look it up just so
Let's look it up.
No, because I want us to talk about him because
which is interesting because he seems older than her too.
He definitely does.
And Mike is older.
Seem older. I think it's just like, you know, Natasha Lyonne has that kind of old. She feels like she got an old soul. So you know, who can you?
Yeah.
Is his name John?
I feel like it's got to be John, right? Everybody's name is John these days.
That's him, I think, right? Is that John?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely John.
I think it's John.
Because John has a daughter.
Yeah.
And he desperately wants her to meet his daughter. And she kind of balks at it. And then when she gets really close to it, she gets too anxious and she won't go in and see her.
Well, and she's like, I'm afraid I'm going to die in front of her.
Yeah.
Which, of course, later she does.
Yeah. But eventually she meets her.
Yeah.
And so never did I think this would come up, but like she gives her a copy of Emily of New Moon, which being Canadian.
Have you read?
So I never read it. There was they adapted it into a TV show, Emily of New Moon. So be on a level with you. When I was young, I never really thought those shows were cool because there's a bunch of like Canadian turn of the century. You know, we live in the Maritimes, we live in the prairies, and it's about like there's Anne of Green Gables. I think it's Lucy Maud Montgomery. I think is the author that wrote Anne of Green Gables and Emily of New Moon.
Same author.
Yeah.
As Ruth would say.
And then there was a show like Road to Avonlea was another show, and it's always like a like young orphan girl who's taken out of her home and put with people. But that's kind of like I blew my mind. I'm like, Emily of New Moon, like who talks about Emily of New Moon?
I'd never heard of it.
And I don't know the story well enough to know what the symbolism is of it. I mean, I think Emily of New Moon is orphaned because like all those girls in those books are orphaned.
Yeah, you sort of gotta.
But I guess that's maybe the uniting factor.
She said when she explains it to the daughter, she says something. I
think Emily has like a mirror she talks to. I don't know. I don't remember, but
we'll have to read it and come back to you.
I know in the show it's supposed to be like she loved that book when she was a kid and it was her life preserver when all shit was bad with her mom and whatever.
Surprise Chloe Sevigny.
Love her. Always love her.
However you say her name. Cameo there as the mom.
Yeah. Goes watermelons.
Oh, yeah. She just clearly has mental issues, which is very sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved that moment where she finally got to bring the book to John whatever's daughter and then dies right in front of her, which is exactly what she was afraid of doing. But I thought, it was a really interesting thing because it became less about, because for a second it was just like, I think Nadia was thinking like, that's it, I've solved it, like I just have to give this book to this kid and then it'll be fine and everything's great, which I think is interesting because when she gets there and is about to do it and decides she can't is because she's not ready. And she's seeing like, oh, it's not that simple. Like I am the one who needs to change and grow and whatever,
Yeah. The ex-lover guy that at the beginning of the show, I was sort of like, oh god, like this fuck boy, who does he think he is? And then I genuinely started feeling bad for him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I think he might really care about her.
I think that was an interesting development too. Yeah, I was like, oh man, this guy is actually like not that crappy of a dude, and like she kind of did torpedo his life
a little bit. I mean, he torpedoed his own. I do think like if you decide to cheat on somebody,
right? Yeah. It's not on her really, but
I mean, maybe she did say like, yeah, I want to be with you going forward, and that didn't happen. I can tell you something that did not sit with me well on the show is I did love that they made her a game designer, especially with the theme of like this being her life being a code and she's a bug in it or whatever. But I just think that TV sometimes and movies sometimes just don't handle games well.
Oh no, yeah.
And
I was like, what is this, 1982? Like, this is green wireframe running guy?
They pull out the game and she's like, yeah, every guy under the age of 18's played this game. And I was like, don't get me wrong, I love every indie game as much as the next person, but I don't, it's not necessarily your Fortnite.
And then they show the game and I'm like, oh.
And he's like, it's so hard, I can't beat it. And I was like, maybe it's it might be difficult, but I don't know. It was just kind of, it was a weird disconnect to me, and I always wish that like somebody just brought in more consultants. On
I don't remember what Omar was watching something the other day, and I overheard it. I think it was just some whatever show, whatever. But like they had a gaming thing going on, and like somebody was like, "Oh no, hey, get in there, man! Get on the point!" And it's just like. People in these shows it's like it's impossible to make playing a game sound good. It's hard. Fiction, I think it's like what I get that when someone's the director probably said to Natasha Lyonne like make exaggerated movements while you're playing, but she's only playing with like the triggers. And I was like, oh my, but like I mean that's just totally superficial dickhead things that I'm saying, because I've seen other shows where it's like they show the screen and it's clearly a single player only game that's being played, and there's two people with controllers. And you just that's just a nitpicky dickish thing that I watching it in my ivory tower with took my monocle away and chortled. But I think I had like a couple of moments like that where I was just kind of like, But like, if those are the things that you're,
that's like, my biggest problem with the show, that I'm an asshole.
Wait, learning moment.
Oh no,
we're in a loop.
Maybe don't be so critical of things when people are making a masterpiece all around it. Maybe don't hone in on that one thing that's just all right.
It haunts me though, that scene. But I think all in all, I think that it was just so good.
What a ride!
And
you see these lights flashing in here?
They flickered again. I changed up the power situation, so that one seems like that strip over there used to go out, but now maybe I put too much on one thing again over on the APC.
Poltergeist.
It's probably a Polty.
Get Bloodworth on the Poltergeist search. I think. Tell them there's a spirit in the studio. Them out.
But Russian Doll, I would highly recommend it. Part of me thirsts for more. I want another season. Part of me doesn't, out of a fear that they would like over-explain. Like I don't want in season. Not that I think they would do this, but like I don't want in season 2 to meet some like extra dimensional council of like ultra beings that like decide to do this to people. Or like I don't want a reason. I don't want to understand why it happened.
Yeah, the parade at the end would have, even if there was no other season, the madness of that would have just been a very poetic madcap way to go out on it. Like, if you looked at it from the perspective of like these people got as much closure as they could. Yeah. But sometimes like you can't be as whole as you hope, and that's okay. And there are people in your life that you maybe try to help, but you can only do so much for yourself and for them, and that's okay. That's just how life is. But I am excited at the prospect of telling more of this story, because I think it's going to be told really well.
That's the thing. Like, I'm judging by this, I'm very confident that also, I just had a thought, because at the end it's split screen, right? And it's the two universes.
And they merge.
And then I guess at the end maybe they merge, because going forward from there, they're in one continuity.
So she will exist.
So
multiple versions of her.
Or no, well, I don't know about that, but maybe it's just like the fixed up version of her and the fixed up version of him are now in one reality going forward.
But then aren't the broken ones too?
I don't know.
Because if she had to contend with another version of herself,
that would be weird. That'd be a weird season 2 if there are 3 of all of them.
Yeah.
Or 2.
Nightmare to Shoot.
2 of all of them. Yeah, Nightmare to Shoot. Well, Orphan Black did it.
Yeah, that's true. They did it the whole time.
On a shoestring, yeah. But yeah, I loved this show, and I would want to watch. I would watch more. I would tune in for sure. Anything else you wanted to talk about with it?
No,
we broad strokes covered most of it, I guess. Without
Amy Poehler, you've done it again.
Amy Poehler. Yeah, I wonder the extent of her role in this. If it was just kind of executive producer, just kind of like. She's swinging her dick around to get it made, or like
she's a creator on it. And when I looked up like writing credits, I think there were 7 people that had writing credits, and she as a creator had maybe she was like in all those meetings, developing in writers' rooms, and maybe other like I think there were 3 or 4 writers that had like episodes attached to themselves. Mm-hmm. So they like sit down and, build out all those actual scripts. I'm a huge Amy Poehler fan. When that for me also sealed it, because when I got to the end credits of the first episode and I saw she was attached, I was like,
oh, you didn't know that going in?
No,
wow.
I just like,
I saw it on the trailer. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh no, I think I just, sometimes I'm honestly like a book by its cover person. Sure. Sometimes and it works out well. Like
that's Netflix's bread and butter, right?
They're targeting me for sure. Like, because I just saw the like imagery in Russian Doll and I was like, this seems to be getting some buzz. I should
font.
Yeah, I have nothing else to do ever.
You're very busy.
Yeah, but I like to do things. Like I'll work on something and I'll. Put something on.
Me too, usually. This show got me. I was only watching this, yeah.
Eventually, I was like, I can't multitask with this. I also have, like, shows that I do. I, like, fold laundry and I watch or whatever.
Folding laundry?
Yeah. Hucking corn. Or was it shucking corn? Yeah, just throwing it out the window.
See you, corn! Anyway, thanks for watching.
Oh.
What?
I was going to ask what else you're watching.
Oh. Nothing. I'm sort of caught up. I want to watch Polar.
Oh yeah, me too.
Starring Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, because again the imagery.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get me prepared for Death Stranding.
Yeah, it looks stupid as hell. I love how he's just clearly like old Snake in the trailer with the eye patch.
He's like, put the paint on my face and put me in the dock roll.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
I don't know what he sounds like.
He sounds amazing. Mads is great.
Broad City's back.
Oh, I fell off on Broad City.
Oh, man.
Which is weird. Oh. The APC did not solve the problem. That light just went off.
I'm telling you.
Though I did hook up these right before.
There's someone in the wires.
There's a ghost in the machine. Yeah. Well, we'll keep working on it. Never ends.
So how often do you do these spoiler modes?
We definitely guarantee once a month.
Oh, okay.
Usually we try to do one gaming one a month, and then we pepper in movie and show ones whenever we feel like talking about something.
This is pepper.
Right in the eyes. When that lady sprays Alan in the eyes.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
He dies.
'Cause, I was looking up a few Easter eggs on the show too.
Oh.
The guys that are at the beginning in the
like bros,
the convenience store,
yeah,
they pop up again later. They're the guys in the ambulance, the EMTs in the ambulance.
Oh, what?
When
that's hilarious.
There's all kinds
those
of like
were
fun
some
stuff
weird
about this
EMTs.
show.
I was getting like weird vibes. I was like, oh no, but yeah.
Oh,
man.
I was getting weird vibes too. I was glad that it crashed because I didn't like the way it was going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, which I'm glad didn't happen, but yeah, I bet there are like all kinds of little hidden gems in this. And if they did do a season 2, I guarantee there are like 10 or 15 leads buried in here that we didn't even realize.
Nope.
Horace is my number one contender. I think something's up with him. Because she definitely says, I think I know that guy in the very beginning of the show.
You gotta watch this show twice.
You gotta watch this show twice.
I don't have time to watch it twice, though.
It's nice that they're 24-minute episodes.
Yeah, that I really like, too.
I started it at like midnight on one night, and I was like, oh, they're short. Then I watched 4 of them, you know. All right. That's been Spoily Mode for Russian Doll. Tanks Release.
Thanks for having me.
Good stretch.
Yeah. You gotta roll it back. Dude, like...
I never exercise. I need to exercise.
I do. I just, oh. That was the chair, not me. I honestly didn't fart because I used your bathroom when I got here. Tore it up.